Today we are solving an awesome grid problem that looks simple but it has a neat optimizations trick. Let's dive into contamination spread in a grid. So um, let I explain you a problem in very brief. You are given a 2D grid where 0 means a contaminated one and all other numbers are clean test sample. So rule is if any cell is 0, it contaminates its entire row and column. Basically, if we found any value equals to 0 at any place in a grid, so we just convert that row and whole column into a 0. Your task is to modify the grid in place so that contamination spreads to the right place. Okay, I hope now this problem is clear to you all. So let's see the input format. So the first line contains an integer t, the number of test cases, and for each test cases, the first line contains two spaces, two space separated integers n and m, the number of rows and column in the grid. Okay, the next n lines contain m spaces separated integer representing the grid. Basically, we are taking input, we are taking an 2D array as an input. Okay, so what are the constraints for this? The value of n and m. It means the value of row and column lines between 1 to 200, and the value each value in grid lies between minus 2 to the raised to power 31 and plus 2 raised to power 31 minus 31. Okay, and what is the output format? We want a grid in output. Basically, the contamination grid after contamination spread. Okay, um, let's understand it with an example. Here is an first example. This is our initial grid and this is our output grid. In initial grid, we have 0 at place 1 comma 1. Okay, this is 0th row, first row, second row, 0th column, first column, and second column. Okay, so we have 1 comma 0 at 1 comma 1 position. Now we need to make that this row and this column 0. Okay, this is the problem. This is actually what we need to do in our problem. So the simplest approach to solve this problem is like, wait, first I rub this. Okay, what is the simplest approach? We start with this element and we iterate through this, and this until we reach the last element. And where I get wherever I get 0, we store that in um, any uh, set. Okay, this is the set. I made two sets. Okay, suppose I get for this problem I get 0 at 1 comma 1 place. Okay, so 1 is the row and 1 is the column. Here in this problem we have only 1 0, so this is uh, we store only 1 comma 1. Now after completing this um, iteration, we use one more loop uh, to set all these value equals to 0. To make it more clear, we take one more example. Okay, so in this problem we have 0 at 0 comma 0 place and 0 at 0 comma 3 place. Okay, so the output for this is this is the output. We have to make all this element 0 and all this element 0 and all this element 0. Understand? So what we will do is um, we simply make two sets, row and column, in which we store the position of zeros. Here, this is the 0th row, first row, and second row. 0th column, first column, and second column. 0 is at place 1 comma 1, first row and first column. So we store 1 comma 1 in this set. Now, and we want to make this row and this column is equals to 0 like this. Okay. For that, I use this code. It means this what this code is doing is for I in range rows and for j in range column. Means this is iterating through this grid. This will this code will iterate all the element. I mean check all the element. Okay. If and check this condition. What this condition is, if I in contaminated rows means this row. Okay. And or j in contaminated column means this column. Now, whenever I will become 1, it means I in contaminated row because here is 1. So when I is equals to 1, when I is equals to 1 means first row, this row, I is equals to 1. It means 1 comma j will become 0. It means this element will become 0. And um, and for this value also, for same for this value also. Okay, means j is equals to when j is equals to 0. When j is equals to 1, it present in contaminated column. Then for grid equals to I comma 1, this value will become 0. Means this value will become 0. Understood? In similar way, all these values will become 0. But here, this row and column set will take some space. So the space complexity will become big O of m plus n. My question to you is, can we do it in a better way? In a constant space complexity? Yes, we can do it in better way. Now let's solve this problem uh, by new approach. Okay, we will check if the first row and first column need to be zeroed or not. Like if first row and first column contains any zero, so in this case, first row is contain 0. Okay, so we make two variables. First row has 0 or first column has 0. If first row has 0, um, we store true. We make it true, and if first column has 0, no. So we will make it false. Okay. Now what we will do is we already checked the zeroth row and zeroth column. Now mark contaminated row or column using the grid itself. Like we loop from 1 comma 1 to the last element. Like we use loop only for this because we already checked the zeroth row and zeroth column. है ना? So if we found any zero in this grid, then we make zeroth element of that row is equals to 0. Like if we found zeroth at this place, first row and first column, then we will make this element equals to 0 and this element is already 0. If this is not 0, we will make it 0. Okay. Similarly, for example, if this element is also 0, suppose this element is also 0. For this element, we make this element is equals to 0 for marker. Okay. And this element equals to 0. Understand? Then spread contamination using these marks which I made here, here, and here. Understand? Finally, update the first row and first column if needed. So let's see code for that for this problem. Okay. So first we define one function spread contamination in which we pass parameter grid, rows, and columns. Grid is 2D array. This is rows and columns. And here we check valid grid is passed or not. Means if grid is empty, we simply return that grid itself. Okay. Now we make two variables. First row has 0 or first column has 0. Here we use any function. If zeroth row have any zero, this will return true. And if zeroth column has any zero, this will return true. Understand? Now here we use two loops. Generally we use two loops for matrix problems. Okay. Now here I check if grid. Here I start from 1 comma 1, as I explained this in the previous explanation. If grid I comma j is equals to 0, it means if any zero is found, we make the zeroth element of that row is equals to 0, and zeroth column of that row is equals to 0 for markers, as I mentioned in previous explanation. Now here we use one more two more loops. This loop is basically to spread contamination. Understand? Um, okay. Uh, and here we are checking if first row has 0, means if this variable has true, it means if first row contains 0, we make first row is equals to 0, and if first column contains 0, we make first column is equals to 0. Understand? And finally we return grade. Here we take t is t input, number of test cases, and use for loop. We take m comma n as an input, means row and column, and grid, and we store the grid in result and simply print the result. Now I run this code. Yeah, we passed all the test cases. Okay, now I submit my code. So thank you for watching this video. Thank you.